So I had this idea to talk about small things I've been doing to help build community where I live. I live in a very new city. Not new, but it has so many transplants and so many new people. Most of the people here were not born here and were not raised here. It's gotten millions more from when I grew up, and it's much different than the rural communities here, which naturally have their own community, I guess. But I have noticed here, since people are so new, growing up, it was difficult, I think, and going to different cities, people were naturally friendlier and naturally helped each other more. But when you go to a city where everyone's a stranger, not just you, it makes it a lot harder. And so I adapted a little bit, and I tried to think of new ways, especially recently, to kind of make it a better community. And I think it's applicable to other places too, because sometimes, maybe lately, people have just been a little bit shut in. But the first thing that I started doing, and I don't always do this because I'm naturally kind of shy, but I've started just saying hi to my neighbors more, even if it's just a hello. And the reason that it was hard is because, like I said, here, a lot of people don't say hi back. Sometimes, a lot of the times, they just kind of look and keep walking. And especially if I'm extra friendly and extra chipper that day, I get an extra weird look. But now that I live in an apartment complex, after a few times, people warm up to me, and I can talk to them and let them know my name, which is huge for me. That was the biggest thing. The whole point of community is to not feel like you're living amongst a bunch of strangers, and that, if something horrible happens, there's going to be someone looking out for you. And so I try to do that for others first and let them know, or at least feel, that I'm somewhat of a safe person and that they can come to me if they really need something. And I do try to look out for people. Obviously, horrible things don't happen all the time, and if there was something horrible, I try to do something. But just talking with them and, sharing a little bit about myself. And part of that is, making them comfortable so that they come to me if they have an issue with me too. Like, I didn't really know that my upstairs neighbor had a problem with how much my dog was barking. She just told the apartment complex until we started being friendly with each other. And obviously, there's not a ton I can do about that because he's old and I've tried to train him, but there's a little bit. I can talk to him through the camera if he's barking a lot, and I can keep him off the patio. So doing small things like that to keep my neighbors happy makes me happy too. Another idea that I had was like incorporating my hobbies, I guess, into this mission. I really like to bake, and like I said, naturally kind of shy, so this was difficult for me to do things and then start sharing them. But when I bake, I obviously live alone and I can't just share what I have with me. It would go to waste. And I don't visit my dad all the time because he's kind of far. So I would keep, if I went out to dinner, whatever box they would give it to me in, not like the styrofoam ones, but the plastic ones, and just pack it. And a neighbor that I had talked to recently, I would just go knock and see, hey, do you want some of these cookies? And they can say no, obviously, but typically it makes their day a little bit brighter. And then you get to do your hobby and they get to have some food. And who doesn't love food? And just incorporating my hobbies that way. I also like to crochet, and so if I ever make something that I'm just not gonna keep, or or maybe I just want to make something for someone else, I'll do that too. For my friends as well, for my family especially. And it helps just build those bonds, and at the very least, it's like, oh, they're thinking about me. And I find that the favor is almost always returned. Like, one of my neighbors, she'll make borscht, she's Russian, and now I get borscht on irregular occasions. And my neighbor was giving away her bar stool, and it was really nice. And she thought of me first. It was very cute. So the next thing I did, well, the next thing I kind of thought of, I mean, I made this list, I don't remember the order that I followed everything in, but offering rides to the airport and offering to pick people up. I love Uber, obviously, but I think that there's no need for Uber, really. I mean, there is a need for Uber, but not for the airport. I mean, there's almost always someone that can get you or drop you off. And what's the point of living amongst people if you can't even find someone who can drop you off? You're going on your trip and you're excited or whatever. And so I've started trying to offer airport rides, even if it's early. I'll get up early. And offering to pick people up as well. And this one, the favor has not been returned yet. But I guess I don't go on a lot of trips. That's fine. But it still makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like they know that I care, which is awesome. I put volunteer on here. I have not really volunteered at an organization in a while, but I did used to volunteer at the food bank. And I did find that was fun, and it did build community. I mean, that was a great place to meet people and make friends. But I guess I put volunteer because there are other ways to volunteer too, like, and I think of neighbors a lot, but like I have an elderly neighbor who sometimes needs help moving things, and I'm happy to do that. I think just not saying no when you can say yes is a big part of how I've started making these connections, I guess, within my community. And then this is kind of tied in with incorporating your hobbies, but I'm really into like foliage and plants, and so I like found out about this invasive species that was going everywhere, and when I would go on my walks with my dog, I just started pulling it. I'd bring a plastic bag and pull it, and I guess people don't know that you're doing that. I mean, it makes me feel better to know that I'm doing it, and it's helping to some extent. And I mean, I guess, you know, not everything is going to be recognized, and it's fine. I still feel good when I'm going out and pulling this invasive species that's hurting a lot of people's yards and hurting the nature, and, you know, driving out like the native plants. So that's one thing I did. Another idea I had is to offer to dog sit or cat sit whenever you can. Cat sitting is like kind of easier if you're not allergic to cats, because you can just bring the cats to you. When it comes to dog sitting, I mean, that you have to have time for. You have to, I mean, if they can't come to you, the dog is at their house. But a lot of times you can bring the pets with you, and then it's not that difficult, especially if you already have a dog or a cat. Just bring them on the walks. And when I say offer to do it for free, because that's the helpful way, I guess. Unless this is like your side hustle, but personally I try to limit monetary transactions. Another idea I had was when a friend of mine is sick, I will try to offer to bring soup or medicine to them. That's something that I really wish I had when I've been sick a couple times. It's just someone to bring me some medicine, because I'm feeling so shit that I don't want to leave the house. Another idea I had is I donate all of my like things that I don't want to this charity shop instead of Goodwill or like a local thrift, because the proceeds go to something else. And when you look at thrift stores, it's difficult to know, I guess, which ones are charity shops and which ones are thrift stores. And I just found out by going there, and they kind of told me, and that's where I donate things now, and it goes to a local hospice. But I mean, I'm sure with a little searching, there's a charity shop in your area. There's also women's shelters, different shelters too, which, I mean, you can't donate all of your things to certain places, so if you have like a bulk of different things, that might be difficult. But still, it takes some searching sometimes, but it makes you feel a lot better. Like, I never felt good giving my things to Goodwill because they're gonna turn around and charge probably double what it's worth, and it's gonna go to some greedy CEO's pocket, which I don't want to contribute to. Okay, so I love music, local music, or music in general, and I, in college, started going to a lot of local shows instead of big concerts. Not only are they cheaper, they're just as good, in my opinion, and you're supporting a local artist who wants to play music and probably, you know, would love people to be there in their show, in the audience. And it's also a great way to make friends too. So not only are you supporting local venues and local artists, but I've made so many of my friends doing that too, and that's been really fun. And my last thing was to kind of like let yourself be invited and accepted in the community. Again, difficult for me, naturally pretty shy, and I guess complicated history too. Like, my grandma was very involved in the church, but after her, like, my dad wasn't, I haven't been. My mom was not involved in anything, total recluse, shut in, so maybe I grew up a little bit more isolated than most people. And it probably contributed to my, whatever, shyness. So letting myself adapt to the feeling of people being used to me was hard. And new community is a strange feeling. But plugging yourself in somewhere is super cool. And I have found that there are stages where I haven't been in, you know, like after you hang out with a group so many times, the dynamic does change, and sometimes I was like, do they still like me? If I came again, am I annoying them? But trust me, you'll know. So just letting yourself feel those strange feelings and believe that people want you to be accepted, and also having faith that you're also cultivating some of that warm feeling, and by being intentional about it, you're doing so much more than most people. But that's how I started making stronger bonds, and trying to cultivate that feeling of warmth, because I found that sometimes society can be very cold and uncaring, and, you know, like if someone needs to go to the airport and they asked you, hey, can you drop me off, and you said just Uber, I mean, that's so cold and just not mean, but uncaring for sure. And it's nice to be able to think ahead, and when you can help. So that's what I do. But yeah, I see my dog. Oh my goodness. He was sleeping. So my dog, here's the story of my dog. I was renting a room just when COVID hit, summer of 2020, and I was in college working at this bar, and it was my friend's family's house, so I was renting their extra room, and they had a lot of, you know, foster animals, and I came home one day and there was this dog here, and I was like, who's this dog, man? And they said that they found him outside of Walmart. And I thought that was very fitting for Rufus. He looks like a Walmart dog, kind of. And they were posting his picture everywhere. He wasn't microchipped. And they had somebody reach out and say that they left him at the Walmart. There's no way to verify if that person was the person who left him there, but I see no reason why they would lie about that. So they were gonna take him or somewhere, find a new home for him. Me and him were already napping together by that point. So I was like, you know, I would love to keep him. We were already so bonded and close. And they actually hung on to him until I was able to get my own place like a year later. Like I went back to university housing and all of that. Yeah. And a funny story about Rufus is we got him and he was totally trained, you know, went to the bathroom outside. He was a very polite boy, but he didn't know how to sit. And I was like, there's no way this guy doesn't know how to sit. And I was trying all different things, holding the treat up. And then I tried it in Spanish. I said, siete, and he sat. He knew Spanish. I don't know what other tricks he knew. I'm sure he's forgotten by this point because it's been years. But he'll still sit if I say siete, because I've been keeping that one up. Yeah, he's my little guy. So yeah.